Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, Karen repeatedly drove over my grass, I got revenge with a big boulder and ruined her car. The gist is, I had been dealing with this woman for a long time and never exactly caught her in the act before. With where my house is located, I can tell that someone had been using it as a shortcut to get to the main road faster. I find it especially stupid since it would only have been saving her a couple of minutes at most. I had never caught her in the act and the only evidence was my lawn that had been totally destroyed. Getting your lawn run over once or maybe even twice might not cause such an impact. Eventually though, the grass dies and starts to get ripped out. Flowers are uprooted and the whole lawn looks horrible. I was glad when I changed my schedule and got to start working from home. I made it my mission to find whoever was destroying my grass and tell them off for it. It did not take long because only a couple days later I was taking a break outside while an SUV came barreling right over my yard. I had to jump up and run in order to get this woman's attention. Knowing what I knew afterwards, I am still shocked that she stopped at all. Woman, what? I'm busy. She sounded like I was the one inconveniencing her, and the minute I saw her haircut and large sunglasses, I knew that this was not going to be easy. Me, you are driving over my grass. Woman, and? Me, you are destroying it and I've had to recede 3 times already. She did not answer me and instead rolled up the windows and drove off. I knew she was a Karen, but something in me wanted to think that she got the message. She was caught doing something and now she would stop and take the road like a normal person. The haircut did not lie to me though, and 2 days later I caught her going over my yard again. She stopped, which again amazes me because she seems to be the type to ignore and keep going or even run someone over if they are in her way. Woman, oh my god, what now? Me, you cannot use my yard as a road, you are destroying it. It looks like a piece of crap anyway. Me, that is because you ruined it by driving over it so often. Use the road like a normal person and stay off of my land. Woman, look, I don't know who you think you are, but I'm very busy. I need to pick up my kids from school and there is no way I am wasting time when I can take a perfectly good shortcut. Me, for the last time, it is not a shortcut, it's my yard. She drives away again, leaving me frustrated and knowing that she just does not care. Talking was not going to work and I felt like any more damage to my yard and the soil would be too ruined to replant grass seed at all. I was totally fed up at this point and I spoke to my husband about what we could do to keep Karen off of our yard. Ideas like calling the police and taking a picture or video of her doing it in the act. Those things worked slowly though, and I needed her to stay off of my lawn now. Really though, I know I have been making it seem like this is all over some grass, but it is much bigger than that. Since this thing started, I have stopped my kids from playing in the front yard because I cannot predict when she is going to show up and don't want them getting hurt. The backyard is much smaller and it really is not fair to them since they did not do anything wrong. We finally figured out the solution to Karen and it came in the form of a giant boulder. We placed it in our yard in such a way that there was no way she could go around it and instead would have to give up and take the road. I will admit that I did not like the idea of a boulder in my yard because it looked so out of place, but actually it ended up working perfectly. Sometimes function needs to go over how pretty it will be. Back to Karen, I thought that I was not going to hear anything else from her, and if I did, it would be her banging on my door to complain about what I did with my own property. Instead though, I get pulled out of doing work by a giant crash sound and I run outside to see what happened. It turns out Karen somehow ignored the giant boulder and tried to drive over my lawn again. She smashed right into it and her front bumper was destroyed. She was screaming so loud about how I broke her car and that she was going to call the police and have me put in jail. She was on the phone talking to the police and for my own safety, I locked myself in the house until they arrived. I don't know what she told them that got so many of them to show up, but I can guarantee that it was a lie. I asked them if they needed a statement or anything from me, but they told me that it was not really necessary. It was more than clear from the way her car looked that the only way it would have happened is her driving in the middle of my yard. Instead though, they started to question Karen relentlessly about if she swerved or if she knowingly tried to cut through someone's property. And if she did not see the boulder in her way and if she was distracted by her phone or something to cause that. They knew right away that it was her fault and I could not have magically attacked her car with a boulder that was in my yard. She got towed away and I was lucky enough to never see her again. I still kept the boulder in my yard because I was worried removing it would cause things to go back to how they were before. The grass and flowers got replanted and after a while, my yard started to look great again. Even the boulder that I thought was an eyesore ended up being okay and actually loved by my kids. They like to draw all over it with chalk and paint, trying to make it pretty as well as climbing on it. For 2 little kids it was like the best toy ever right in the front yard. At least I don't need to explain to them why we are the only house with a random boulder in front of it. I wish I knew if Karen got in a ton of trouble for what she had done, but I had no way of finding out. I do know from experience that a smashed bumper can be pricey to fix and her insurance might not fork over the money to repair it. And yeah, ripe stars, I guess that proves again, not only should you not mess with farmers or soldiers, but you should definitely also not mess with Mama Bear. That was definitely a unique sort of revenge / idea. Anyway, if you still enjoy the Karen / Neighbors from Hell stories, then I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and enjoy the daily content. We are quite close to 70,000 subscribers and that is a milestone I always wanted to reach. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is titled Victory over the HOA Karen. My parents, now with an empty nest, just recently moved to a spot with an HOA. My mom had multiple arguments with the president of the HOA for the ridiculous rules almost instantly they moved in. Example, we have a neighbor from Southeast Asia, very nice, sweet, etc. and one day we all had our dogs on the dock. President sees this and does the Carmela Soprano come here signal with her finger and tells our neighbor that she is the only one who cannot have her dog out there. Arguably a racist act. Now, my mom was backed by other members of the community because she stood up for our neighbors in times like these, and this caused my parents to be threatened to be kicked out by the president because mom made this a big deal that day. You don't mess with others when mama is around, especially with that pompous Carmela Soprano finger whack. Pretty sure season 1 episode 1 of Sopranos for example. Meanwhile, president's kids hang out by the public dock drinking and smoking weed, underage and in VA illegal. For me, 24th male, I did not really care. I did that as a kid, but what I didn't do was leave the solo cups and roaches, aka litter. So I decide to clean their mess when they leave, and while doing so, the president comes down and sees me, a mess and roaches and an already smoked joint. Naturally, she starts screaming at me, asking a whole mess of questions because they don't live there and she doesn't know me, and dials the police saying some strange kid is here and has paraphernalia. First of all, I absolutely look over the age of 21, so that is disrespectful on her part calling me a kid. Second, my eyes were not puffy or red, so I don't think she knew how weed works. I politely ask her to calm down. I explain that I'm cleaning and point to the house where my parents live, and she responds with, "Oh, you're one of them." I cracked. I have never belted the word "what" so loud in my life. My parents and other neighbors hear me and poke their heads out to check it out. At this point, my dad is pissed that I'm causing a scene. He comes out and asks me what the hell I'm doing, and the president interjects him by explaining what is going on. In her eyes, I have littered and have weed, totally understandable. My dad saw what I was doing and I told him that I was going to clean it up before doing so. Naturally, he tries to defuse her, explains I am his eldest and I am the one picking up the litter that her own kids and friends just left. Being the kind of person she is, you can likely picture her yourself, scoffs and says her children would never do anything like this. They have done multiple hours of comm service here and other noise about how they've been here all their life and that we recently moved in and don't know how things work around here. My dad and I look at each other knowing we cannot win this without an officer, so we wait because he knows she called the police. As the time went by while waiting, the president was getting more and more agitated because in her eyes, realization of potential truth was setting in. Likely because my dad and I were so calm, my dad and I realized this should be straightforward with the officer, however it does have potential to go bad for me. Then 2 officers arrive. The president beckons to the officers before they even get the chance to ask what is going on, which is already looking good for me. She explains she found me, an unknown, trespassing on public HOA dock, littering and with weed. The officers then look at me standing next to a middle-aged man who eerily resembles me, this man being my dad. The president at this point was anxious and I could tell she was scared for her and her family on what could transpire. Officers ask us to come closer and explain. My dad takes over, he leaves out the part about her kids and just tells the officers I was cleaning up a mess some people left. The officers are chill with it, no reason to be here anymore, and they leave. As the officers were getting in their car to leave, the president begins walking away. Presumably home, I don't know where she lived at that time. My father, quite pissed and yet totally in control, orders me to go finish up cleaning and head inside. After that stress, I just do as I am told. My father then asks for the president to hold up. He walks over and they have a chat. I don't pay attention, continue on and head back inside to explain what just happened to my mom and younger brother. 3 weeks later, my mother calls me up at 2:30 on a Wednesday, insert Ari Gold entourage meme, to tell me our immediate neighbor was elected president of the HOA and the former president had a for sale sign on her property. Victory. Look, I don't know what my dad said to her, he refuses to tell me to this day, but whatever he said, it worked and my parents now have no more arguments. Our Southeast Asian neighbor can have her dog on the dock too, and our immediate neighbor got the position he wanted since moving in 8 years ago. Moral of the story, stand up in moments where you feel things are wrong, stand up for those who are unable to stand up for themselves, and lastly, keep your enemy's dirt to yourself. It could get you what you want someday. But above all, never raise your voice in an argument. Staying calm is key. The next one is titled, My Selfish Thief of a Sister Helps Me Get Revenge on Her. My sister and I mostly get along now. Being in college and living 3 states apart plays a large role, but we absolutely hated each other while we were growing up. She was selfish and irresponsible with a quick temper. She would frequently borrow my possessions and then hurl them at me in anger when I wanted them back. She was careless with her own things and would often steal mine to replace what she had destroyed. It wasn't uncommon for her to intentionally break something of mine when I made it clear that I wasn't going to cave in and give it up without a fight. She was a nasty piece of work and was unfortunately encouraged, albeit passively, by our exhausted parents' refusal to come to my aid when I was treated unfairly. My sister had been a problem child since she was in diapers, at home that is. She knew better than to melt down in the presence of other people, and they were just too worn out to care what she did to me unless I was left bloody or bruised. I had long before grown wise to her selfishness and thieving ways by the time I reached high school. I had established good hiding places in my room for some smaller valuable things and was shrewd about keeping these things from her sight and reach. My clothes and shoes were always up for grabs though, and she would even go through my underwear drawer and take what she wanted. My cosmetics and toiletries were not really mine. She had stopped hurling things for the most part as a teenager, but still had her eyes peeled for anything she wanted for her own. Our birthdays are in the same month and our parents often bought us the same gifts when we were younger so that we wouldn't squabble over who had what. But as I said, she wouldn't take care of her things and would steal mine to replace what she had lost or broken. Living with her was horrible. During my freshman year and her junior year, she signed up to go on a weekend trip to the mountains with the youth group from our church. I had no interest in it and couldn't see why she did. The boys were okay, but the girls were stuck up, and I had witnessed them ignoring my sister when she followed them like a lost puppy. I imagined a trip with the group would be a lonely one for her. Our birthdays were a month or so before the trip, and we had found favor with the birthday fairy. We both received $100 MasterCard or Visa gift cards from our childless aunt and uncle who have no other nieces or nephews to spend money on. Our parents let us pick out our gifts from them. I chose an MP3 player to replace the one I'd had for years that now had a non-working volume control. My new toy was the same model but had twice the memory. I set aside the old one to see if my dad could fix it and use it. My sister chose some suede boots and gave me strict orders to stay away from them. I remember feeling really angry about that, considering all the things she had taken from me. She took my mom's advice and saved her gift card for the church trip. After mom had dropped my sister off at church to get on a bus for the long drive, she suggested that we go shopping with my gift card. I wanted to, but had some trouble finding it. It was not in the drawer in my vanity where I knew I had put it, and I searched my room for several minutes before it hit me. I just knew. I went straight to my sister's room and opened the tacky rhinestone box on her bookshelf. It was her money box and my gift card was in it. I knew it was mine because one of the groups of numbers was the last 4 digits of my friend's phone number and another group was my birth year. I had noticed this when I first received the card and looked at it. My sister had stolen my gift card from my room and was probably going to pass it off as hers after using hers up. My sister had done a lot of nasty things to me and had taken a lot from me, not just my possessions, but she chipped away at my dignity over the years and left me without any self-confidence. But this insult, stealing my birthday gift right out from under my nose, is what I still consider to be the worst. The icing on the crab cake was that I couldn't tell my parents. They had stopped listening to my complaints and pleas when my sister's everyday bad behavior became too much for them to stand. It was easier to just ignore it. When my mom and I went shopping, I did not bother getting anything that my sister could make use of. I knew she would just take what she wanted. She is taller than me and has an inseam at least 3 inches longer, so I bought some jeans that I liked and knew would be too short for her. I also treated myself to a couple of bras. Any bras that would fit me would overwhelm her wee attributes. I love makeup but didn't bother going to the mall counters because my sister frequently raided my makeup bag and used my stuff, even the germy things like mascara. I wanted to get things that would be mine and only mine. Now here is where the sun comes out. She was in a right snit when my parents and I picked her up at church the following week. She was still flaming mad about opening her bag when she got to the hotel and finding out that the shampoo she had packed, my shampoo by the way, had a loose cap and had spilled all over her clothes and some other things. She accused me of going into her bag and fiddling with the bottle so it would leak. I didn't go into her bag, but I did loosen the cap on all my hair care and body wash bottles before she left and then tightened them again after she had gone. I knew she had taken some of my stuff with her and I was getting the sticky results I had wanted. I denied it, of course. Hotel staff had to take her clothes down to the laundry room and throw them in the washer. This was mortifying to her. She sobbed and screamed at me for what I had done. Then she regained her composure long enough to tell me that I wasn't nearly as clever as I thought I was. I will never forget the self-satisfied smirk on her face as she told me that she had used my gift card to buy t-shirts and snacks for her friends and threw away my new shampoo-coated MP3 player as soon as she took it from her bag. Mom, confused, piped up before I could with the news that I had used up every cent of my gift card at the mall and that I had been using my new MP3 player all weekend. My sister snapped back at her that it was my old player I'd been using and I took great delight in setting her straight. She had a total meltdown when she realized she had cost herself a $100 shopping spree and had not actually destroyed my property. Mom and Dad for once were having none of it and shut her down pretty quickly when she tearfully demanded I hand over my MP3 player as a consolation prize. She was still a jerk after that, but was never as bad as after the wind was knocked from her sails. Mom and Dad started also sticking up for me more. That is what I would call justice. Yeah, ripe stars. Here you can see what happens when Disney can take off the little sunflower. Because I allowed her to take it off for a second. Of course, first she has to make her fur look good. I'm wondering what cats are always doing there. But I guess they want to make the fur like look all even or something. But unfortunately, when she will start licking her paws and then like scratching her ears, that's when I will stop her. But so far, that's okay if she does that. Right, Disney? That's okay if you do that, okay? It's okay. I've read the statistics before that 70% of the day cats are just grooming themselves. So that's what they spend most of their time with, it seems. Ah, now it starts, now it starts, now. No, Disney, that's not good. We don't do that. We don't scratch ourselves, okay? I like how that looks. So much enthusiasm. But I think that's normal, like when cats say that. Just she has not. Yeah, look at this, it's wet because she loves doing that so much. But yeah, whenever she starts trying to scratch her ears or like her face or whatever, I stop her. And sometimes like she's really smart. Sometimes she will like go around the corner so I cannot see her when I stop her. But now it's okay, Disney. You know that you should not do that, right? Right, Disney? Oh. Disney. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed the Disney footage. And I think someone will continue grooming herself. So thank you for watching, and I see you again tomorrow. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.